What's going on, guys? Matt Stevens here, and today we're going to talk about cheating on your diet. It is not that big of a deal, but people make it out to be this massive ordeal, and I get it. I've done it before. I've felt the shame. I've stepped on the scale and seen the 10 pounds or the 8 pounds that I had, just worked so hard to get off back on the scale. And felt that sinking feeling, and then felt like, man, now I got to do that all over again. That's usually not the case. After I've had some experience, I've learned that it really doesn't make that big of a difference. And that's what I really want to explain here today, is that you didn't just gain back that whole 10 pounds of fat that you lost over the last several weeks. It's okay. Most of it is water weight. It may be a little bit of fat. But if you'll notice that if you get right back to what you were doing before, you get right back on track, that extra 8 pounds or whatever it is will be off in the next few days. It takes your body a little while to process it, but once it does, it'll get right back to where it was. Oftentimes, it even helps you out. There's some things that we don't even know about the metabolism, and I've had it happen to me before, where I messed up. I had a completely total cheat meal, and the weight came up, but then got right back to where I needed to be, and noticed that in 5 days I was even lower than where I was previous to the cheat meal. And so sometimes it actually works in our favor. Like I said, there's some things about the metabolism that we don't know. We don't know, how certain foods or certain timing and certain amounts affect us at certain times. So, but it happens. There's a few things that we need to consider here. One, you're human. You are prone to mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. So, even people at the most elite levels, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, you name it, anyone at the elite level is still making mistakes. We cannot be perfect. You're not going to be 100% on your diet for the next 365 days in a year. You're going to mess up a few times. It's just inevitable. But one day out of that 365, even 3 days out of that 365, or 4, 5, 10, isn't going to make that big of a deal. What we're aiming for here is overall consistency. We want to remain as consistent as possible. And yes, we know we shouldn't mess up. We know we should remain as consistent as possible. But it does happen, and here's what we can expect, and here's what we can do when those times happen. I've got a chart here. I love having a visual so I can kind of show everybody what exactly happens if you have not experienced this before, and then let you know what to do. Because as a coach, I'll take a look at a client and what they've done, and say, okay, what happened? What was it here that we felt caused this issue? Because there have been times where, you buy something in the grocery store you shouldn't have bought. You may have thought like, oh, I'll have the discipline, I'll have the one bite of that Nutella, then I'll put it up. But then that one bite turns into like 10. And you know that you should not buy that Nutella. But it happens. Those things, we have to discover those things. And we have to find out where the boundaries are and where our limits are. So there's things that we can do. There's tactics that we can implement. Even refeed days. If someone comes to me and says, Matt, I'm starving. I gotta eat some food. Then I'll say, okay, let's do a refeed day then. Let's stay within our control, and let's still monitor what we're taking in. Let's not just devour everything all day, because you don't want to do that. But if it does happen, like I mentioned, it's not that big of a deal. So let's go to the chart, and I'll show you exactly what happens. So we've got our chart here. Time is on the bottom axis. We've got weight in red, calories in blue. And obviously you'll see that calories are a lot more controlled. And weight tends to fluctuate anyway. It'll go up and down, but what we're looking for is an overall downward trend over time. It's why I don't typically like to use weight as a sole indicator of process or success, or progress or success. Although I do encourage people to weigh themselves daily. I think studies show that people who pay attention to their weight, I want to say that they log their weight. They step on the scale every day and they log their weight, tend to adhere to their diet much better than people who do not. So I actually encourage people to weigh themselves on a daily basis. Maybe punch it into MyFitnessPal or whatever app and chart it out. That way you could see this downward trend. Because after about 3 weeks or so of dieting, and you can see that downward trend, that's really encouraging. So let's say that over this span of time, it's been about 8 weeks, and we've made great progress. We've lost about 10 pounds here. But now we've come to today, and you can't take it anymore and decide that you're going to eat some food, damn it. So you binge. You got a burger and fries, maybe some ice cream. But luckily, I'm your coach. So I tell you, look, it's no big deal. Get back on track. Everything's going to be fine. And you do. You come right back to the baseline and you continue trucking. So what is your weight going to do? Obviously, it is going to follow the trend. You're going to pack on a little bit of pounds. And you can see that someone who has never had experience with this before can step on the scale that day and be like, man, it took me 8 weeks to get to where I was, and now I just ruined it all in one day. They're almost back to where they were when they started. You could see how and understand how discouraging that is. So this is exactly what happens in that situation. This is why it is not that big of a deal. Once you get back to doing what you were doing before, so here's what I want to emphasize. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. As soon as you do something different, you're going to eventually get something different. This goes for anything in life, but specifically here with dieting, this just goes to show the significance in this. So weight starts to regulate. It starts to go back down. You go right back to what you were doing previously, and you're going to get what you were getting previously. So come back down, little blip, and here we are, right back to where we were before. So it's okay, just leave it. It takes a few days because you can only burn so many calories in a day, and most of this weight is water weight, like I mentioned before. So it just takes a few days for your body to flush everything out and regulate itself, because it's trying to seek homeostasis here. So remember that, and when you do mess up, of course we should try not to mess up, but when you do mess up, learn from it. Learn what caused this, and learn how we can try to prevent it the next time around. And when you do it, man, enjoy it. I mean, if you're going to eat, then eat, but try not to go overboard. Like I said, get back on track. And like I said, everything will be fine. So I hope this has done a good job of explaining to you why it's not a big deal if you cheat on your diet, why you shouldn't throw your diet out the window if you do mess up, and mistakes are small in the bigger scheme of things. And if you have any questions about anything, leave them in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to stay with me on this journey, hit the subscribe button, and I'll have more content coming out soon. Thanks again for tuning in.